Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's webinar will be on realistic coloring and shading with Magdalena Proszowska. And we're very excited to have this webinar. It's one of our first webinars that's going to be on coloring, so we look forward to it. Before we start the webinar, we have a few housekeeping items that we'd like to review with you all. The webinar will be approximately an hour long. All attendees will be muted. The Q&A session will be during the last 15 minutes of the webinar. So please start asking questions right away in the GoToWebinar question box. Due to time constraints, unfortunately, we won't be able to answer all the questions. The webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared on social media and will as well be sent to all registrants and as well as attendees of the webinar. Today's panelists are Fahim Niaz, myself, Joanna Brower from Celsius, and then also Magdalena. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Clip Studio Paint is your all-in-one solution for stunning, ready-to-publish illustrations, comics, manga, and animations. For more information, please check us out at clipstudio.net/en and as well as on graphixly.com. And with that, we're looking forward to Magdalena's webinar, and we look forward to learning more about Clip Studio Paint. I'll be sharing the webinar with her now.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope it works now. Fahim, can you confirm?
Yes, it works.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Great thanks to Fahim and to Joanna for organizing it and for inviting me to take part in this webinar. I will let slide through some of my works and give you a small introduction about myself. So by my funny, strange-looking surname, some of you might already guess that I'm from Poland. I was born in Poland, and I really loved drawing since I was quite young. Actually, when I was already a teenager, I convinced my parents to let me get additional lessons in traditional art, and so through all my high school and earlier years, I was painting traditionally and sculpting traditionally, but I had a second passion, and my second passion was video games. I was very heavy influenced by my older brother, who was a heavy PC gamer, and I was just following his steps and playing all games that he did. So when it came to choosing an university, I really wanted to do something closer to computers. Unfortunately, at that time, game development was not an option at any university programs. So I was brave enough that I just went to the work straight after my high school. And I worked first at the advertising company, but as soon as I found opportunity, I moved to a company that was doing mobile games. And slowly from there, I started building my career, and I really committed myself to start working in a big company that makes AAA games. And today I am happy to say that I work for Ubisoft. So this is in shortcut who am I and what I am doing at Daily. At Daily I am a concept artist, and I actually use a lot of Clip Studio personally and in my work as well. The thing is that even if you are working as a artist and you have your dream job and you're working 8 hours a day in front of your Wacom and Paint, you go home and you just don't stop. You continue drawing. So that's something what I really have my final time to explore new ideas, to learn more. It's what I usually do. I just spend additionally extra hours daily just trying out stuff and painting. And what I will be doing today is trying to explain quite basically how to approach colors and how to use some good tools that help you understand color theory. I have created this sketch earlier to just speed up the process, and I will try to color it today. And I will explain everything what I am thinking when I am painting. My setup is just a standard PC with a Cintiq, Wacom Cintiq tablet. So I am just using the screen tablets in my work. As I had this traditional artistic education, it is much more intuitive for me to work with the screen when I can, basically use a pen to touch the screen and see the feedback underneath my hand. And my Clip Studio, I think it's quite a standard UI. What I have additionally, what I can mention additionally is that I am left-handed, so I have some of those settings for the brush on my left side and color wheel and layers on my right side of the panel. But I think everything else is quite standard here. I don't use any fancy tools or fancy windows, and I don't really even change much of the settings, because as it is, it's instantly perfect for me to just start painting. I have some additional brushes that I downloaded from asset library that you can access anytime on the Clip Studio page. And I have some of my own brushes that I hope Joanna can share a link where you can download them later. What I want first to explain is the tool that every artist should make the best friend of it. It's the color wheel. And the color wheel that you can see here on my screen, it's the traditional painterly color wheel. What does that mean? It's built on 3 primary colors. So we have a yellow color, a red color, and a blue color. Those are our primary colors. And by mixing primary together, you get a secondary colors that are those colors in between primary. So we have an orange, violet, and a green color. So this rim of the circle is a organization of colors according to their mixing. But what is interesting, and that's one of the key words that I will be using very often, is the complementary color. Complementary color are the colors that are placed opposite side on the color wheel from each other. And what is happening when you are mixing complementary color is that right, so for the blue color, the complementary, it will be orange. And when you mix those colors together, the result will be quite dirty, muddish gray color. And that is true for every single of those colors. So if I have a violet mixed with yellow, if I mix those 2 colors, at some point I will get this gray, muddy something. So when you mix all of those colors together, you actually achieve a gray color, right? So this is what it's in the middle of this color wheel. This is important to look at, because when we'll be thinking about how color light influence the local light, this color wheel will be our guideline to identify the result. But before I will jump into these colors, I want to basically touch a little bit on shading itself. So in a very simplified world, it would be perfect if it will be just a grayscale, because it will be so easy to render and draw and paint. let's imagine this environment, that it's just a simple neutral gray ball on some gray, standing on some gray table, and we have a source of light hitting it. The light comes from the right top corner. And what is happening when we have a light hitting a surface is that this whole surface gets lit. All surfaces or planes of the geometry that is directed toward the light is lit up, so it's brightened up. And all planes that are not hit by the light are getting shaded. Additionally, there is a third light source, and that comes from the physics of the light itself, that the light overall bounces around everywhere, and we will get a little bit of reflected light in the shaded area. And the reflected light is never as strong as the highlight itself. So that's the basic of shading, right? Using just these principles, knowing the source of the light, the direction of the light, we can create illusion of dimension, right? We have a flat surface, but when we are looking at this picture, we can understand the geometry and the depth that is happening in that picture. But when you add color, that's where the hard stuff is happening. Not only we have to think about the values and dimension of them, the light source, the shadow shape, and the reflected light. Now we have to think about the color of environment, the color of the light, the color of the shadow. So it's like a lot of complicated things that is happening right now. We still have the same gray ball, but it's in different environment. The environment is quite warm. It have more earthish tones to it. And we have a source of light that have a color. If we imagine it as an outside environment, the source of light will be sun, and sun is a yellow. So what is happening with a light when it hits the surface of a gray ball? The light, as we said, is yellow. So the highlight on the gray ball will be yellow. The environment itself is warm, brownish. So the shadow will be influenced by the color of the environment. And the shadow will reflect this color in itself. So the shadow is warm. It's darker, but it's also colored. It's not just black. And we have a fill light that comes from the sky, of the blue sky, that will influence the shadow side. It's very delicate in this illustration, but I think it makes the point, right? So we will have environment reflected in the shaded area and the color of the light hitting it. The example I made is on gray ball, and it's easier this way to explain and look at the color wheel right now. Let me just grab it and move it maybe closer to this picture, right? So what's the color wheel have to do with this picture and this explanation of how the lights works? We started with just a gray ball. And the gray ball, the gray for this ball is a local color. And it's in the middle, right? It's when we place it, where's the gray color on the color wheel? It's in the middle. We have yellow light source. So we look at the color wheel, we look where's the yellow, and we know that we can push this direction to predict the light color. It's very simple right now because it's just gray. So of course from the middle, it always goes just the whichever color we want to apply to it. So we have yellow light coming from the middle of the color wheel to the yellow. This is the color of the light. We have warm shadows, the same principle, from the color, local color, the gray, to the warm tones. This is the color of the shadow. And we are adding blue, so from the gray, blue. That's simple. That's really simple. That's very understandable. And it's even stupid that I explain it this way, but bear with me. It's really important to imagine it as on as simple situation as possible. Because when we will jump into different colors, right, the different local colors, we'll have much easier understanding what is going on with the colors and why do they change the way that they change to. But this will go for a future. Right now, I think I explained just the basic theories. I hope it is clear enough for everyone and I didn't overcomplicate it too much. And now I want to start coloring the picture, but the light itself, it's so complicated. It's really hard to imagine it. And I really avoid imagining the nature because I don't have this amazing photographic memory, and I actually very often will use references, and not only for shapes that I am painting, but also I will use references for lighting conditions. And I have here a small window that comes with the Clip Studio that is called Subview, where you can import a photo and have it on your screen to refer to. This is my personal photo from my vacation in Tuscany. So we have a beautiful sunset, and that's exactly the light that I want to paint today on this picture. Let me maybe flip the canvas so I have easier time, because I would like to copy exactly this lighting condition. So I want to have this low hanging light that will create a strong rim on the body, on the character, and this shaded area, the shadow shape is quite big. So that will exactly what I want to do. As I said earlier, my file is already prepared. I have all objects separated, and I actually copied all this layer again and flatten it. So I have a whole character just on one layer. And I do it this way because I really like how brushes, the oily brushes works, that they, when you're painting, they will pick up the color of the canvas and they smudge it. Like, I really love this feature and I always use it. So I will just flatten everything on one layer and I will paint just on this. But I kept all the shapes, all the previous layers, so I can, holding down Control and clicking on the miniature of the layer, I can make a quick selection mask to whichever shape I require. So okay, let's jump into proving that my theory of using, why don't you want to come here, that using color wheel can really improve and help understand how should you choose the correct colors to really make the rendering of your lights looking very realistic. So as I said earlier, the circumstances of the lights that I had on the ball, it's pretty similar to this one, right? We have a warm light coming from the sun. We have very warm shadows that are from earthy tones. And we have a little bit of the fill light that comes from the blue sky. You will see it especially on those planes that are directed up, right? Like, for example, on cheeks and on forehead, it is kind of violet. And that's because, what is it? Red color plus blue color of the sky, it meets in the middle somewhere on the violet color. That's why those surfaces have a little bit of the violet coloration. It's the sky color filling up those planes. So that's what I want to keep in mind. And I will start with coloring my skin. So I will pick up, this is our local color of the skin, right? Maybe I will move it even here so it looks more correct. I use this version of the color wheel, not the square. You can choose between the shape of the color wheel by clicking this small icon in the right bottom corner in the color wheel, because this is more correct representation of the color. Color have three values. It have brightness, that is here a vertical line, and it has saturation, that is a horizontal one. And the strongest saturation is just in one point of the value. It's not in here, right? This is this black is not saturated. They have no saturation. This is the only saturation point. So I prefer using this triangle for the color wheel. Anyway, let's go back to color of the skin. And I will pick the color of the skin, and you can see where is it placed. It's an orange, and it's middle way saturation, quite bright. So what I want to, where do I need to move on the color wheel to create darker but warm version of this color? And to do it, first of all, I need to move down, right? We want to have a darker version of this color, and I want to make it more warmer. So I will move it toward the red color. And that is going to be the color of the skin. Maybe I will even add a little bit more saturation to it. Yeah, so looking at, oops, I had not removed the eyeballs. This is the eyeball. So I look at the photo kind of to try to copy the shapes of the shadows up there. So there will be a little bit of shadow from the cheek. Something like that. For sure, all of this is going to be under the shadow and create this small rim all around the arm. This is all a shaded area. Perfect. So we have decided on the color of the shadow itself. Let's jump into highlight. So again, I am picking up the local color of the skin, and we have a yellow light, so we need to move it up because it's highlight, so it's brighter, and move it toward the yellow. And that's the highlight color for the skin. I will place it just in a few spots. It doesn't have to be everywhere. I will not really blend it yet. I just want to get the correct colors on all surfaces before I will jump to anything else. So the next could be a hair, and it's the same analogy. We have, I am picking up the color of the hair and going through the same step by step. We want to have it darker. We want to have it warmer. Let's see if that will work out. Maybe it's slightly too saturated. Yeah, this looks better. And for the highlight, the same, going up and going to the yellow side. So far, so good. And it's all simple when we are working just with the warm color, and we are moving it toward warmer for shadow and warmer toward highlight. The problem will start with so drastic color, like the color of the blouse, that it's bluish, because now we need to really look into our color wheel. So we have it blue. It's somewhere here on our color wheel. What do we need to do to move it toward the orange or to the yellow? You draw the straight line through this color wheel from here to here. And what you can observe is that this line will go through the gray color. Gray is very magical color because it's neutral. Like it's never, it depends on what color are neighboring it to determine its temperature. So for blue, for this blue color, we actually need to desaturate it to make it warmer version of it. That's something quite mind-bending, and you need a lot of thinking put into it to really remember about it every time. It's not just, it's a mistake that I made for many years. Maybe I will go back through a few steps and show what I did previously when I did not understand colors at all, is that I would take the color that is of whatever local color, and I will slide it down, and to make it nice I will just push saturation, and I thought that this is all that it's needed for this color, right? But because right now this shadow is so much bluer than the local color, it's also much cooler than the local color. When on the other elements the shadow is warm, it creates this yeah, it just feels wrong, and you might know you might not understand why it's wrong, but it's wrong because it have a different color of the shadow. So it really have to be very careful and use the color wheel to check, are you exactly thinking about the colors the correct way? So that's our color for the shadow of the blouse, and I'm actually need to shade all of it. Yeah, I completely forgot where's the source of the light in this one. So one more time. Here is the shadow for the blouse. Oops. Okay, I will use it also on checking the eyeball color. So again, we have this grayish, and I want it darker and more warm. Maybe even more dark. And for the highlight, let's push it toward yellow, just the halfway. And this is our highlight. And since the irises have almost the same color as the hair, I will just use the same thing. But basically, those colors already starts looking quite natural. They are unified by the same lighting condition, so all surfaces are lit by the warm light and have warm shadows. And when you have established those colors, Now it's easy. Now it's really just turning into a rendering machine and blending all those edges that need to be blended. I will even use a little bit of smudging to speed up this process. And this step of how to place shadows in correct way, it's all based just on simple geometry, right? Everything can be simplified to cylinders and spheres and squares. With just good understanding of it, you can really make something looking very realistic. Yeah, maybe I even smudge it too much slightly. The thing is that a skin, something like a skin, is never really just one color, so I will add a little bit of variation of it, like a more reddish cheeks. Where's my color wheel here? Just by using the airbrush. So I will brush in a little bit of red here. Maybe slightly somewhere where the skin is thinner. It's usually have more blood veins underneath it, and by this the skin on the surface is much more warmer. Right, so this is our lighted side and this is our shaded side. And what we still need to kick it up is also the sky color, right? The color reflected from the sky that hits the shadow area. So I will jump to picking up the shadow, and now let's make this complicated, figuring out what is the correct mixture of the blue color mixing with this orange skin tone. So let's identify it. We have orange, so it's here on the color wheel. And where is blue? It's on the opposite side of the color wheel. So it's a complementary color. And what is happening when we are mixing two complementary colors? They are turning gray. So actually, the version when the blue light hits the color of the skin, it's actually the gray that we will see. I'm trying also to match the value, so it's the same value of the shadow, but just those surfaces that are facing up to the sky are only the one that are hit by the blue light. I think maybe that's I need to slide slightly more to this pinkish color to really make it look blue. I am using a brush, one of my favorite brushes that have the power of being a soft brush and a hard brush in one. So if I press very hard, it have a hard edge, but if I press it very softly, it just blends color together. I really like this all-in-one brush for painting fast. Right, so again, blue, this arm is facing upwards, so will be hit by blue. Okay, I think that Now when I am looking at the photo, I think the shadow is much more darker on it. So maybe that's something, right? It's a beauty of digital medium that you can always fix it. It's not like a traditional media that you are stuck and you need to just start over the whole thing if you mess something up. And I think I did mess the contrast of the skin, and it actually could be darker. So I will go to edit, tonal correction, and change the contrast to, oops, not this one. It's more brightness. Maybe not this one. Maybe I will use layer to fix that. Sorry, levels. Sorry, the level window jumped out to the other screen, but I have it now. So if I will just flatten those colors, just the shadow, I see it was much too bright, and now it's much too red as well. Okay, I think I can live with that for now. But I messed up all the colors. Okay. I need to actually improve on that before I will do anything else. Yeah, this color of the shadow looks much better. So yeah, it's it's my mistake. I should have paid more attention to the colors that I am picking, but that's not a shame, right? It's a quick fix that we can do to improve on that. So again, and now our blue, I need to slide here the saturated, and that should be okay. This is, I think, too dark, but this could be the color of the sky. Yep, this looks much better. Okay, I will hide the selection. And what I did earlier, right? So it's now it's just painful rendering this thing. Just keeping in mind all the quality of the surface, where and how the surface shadow will be applied, and the cast shadows. This is all quite time consuming, but when you have the colors set up right from the beginning, it's much easier and you make much less mistakes after it. So I really do recommend of thinking about colors upfront, really planning it out, really considering what is the lighting condition, finding a good reference for lights itself, and just applying it to it. What always saves the day is to have a highlight in the eyes. It has to be yellow. Great. It's not maybe perfect, but I think it's a beginning of something good. Like from there, I could now start thinking about the occlusion shadows. So the occlusion shadows are the areas where no light, there's not that many light hitting it. So like all the surfaces that are very narrow, the nostrils, anything that is hidden from the light, and slowly getting to the point where I can go down on the liner until the point I can remove it completely. But this takes usually quite a few hours. And there is yeah, the one more thing that I would like to show you how to use the same approach but do something quite more drastic with the colors is to choose completely different color circumstances. So I will go step back to our beginnings, use those, copy those layers, and I will flatten it, and I will do something completely different. So I will use different reference, and that's something I want to now use. Like, this is absolutely different lights, everything is green, and how we are going to turn this picture and make it working with those lights. So first thing that I need to do is to consider that all local colors are now changed, and they are changed by the green color. So I will go to first starting from the skin. Oops. I think I clicked something too fast. Okay, let's start with the skin. We are picking the color of the skin. Where is orange and where is the green color? It's like very sea green color, so it's somewhere between blue and green actually. So I need to slide it half the way here, maybe even less. I don't think it will be so strong. But let's say this color of the skin will actually be this color, right? This is very drastic. This looks weird so far, but we can handle it and we can make it work. So next one, hair. Where is orange and where is our blue, green and blue color? So again, we're sliding this direction and we will desaturate it. Let's see how does that look. Wow, she is really turning into an alien now. I will just change this quite fast. And the blue. So we have to move now the blue this direction. And I think actually this would work if we will keep it saturated. Let's try out. Yeah, it looks kind of okay. Maybe it even have to be more. Yeah, this is the correct thing. And now we have the same principles that before. We have skin. Let's think. Maybe I overdid that slightly. Maybe it needs to be slightly more yellowish, but it still will be quite green in the final effect. Yep. We pick up the local color of the skin. We think about how to make it darker and have the shadows warmer. So this is going to be the shadow for our skin. I will do it maybe just on one part because I don't think we have enough time for a whole painting. Right, go back to the local color of the skin. It's have to be higher, brighter, and yellow. So that would be a delicate highlight. The same for hair. So a warmer color and darker. Oops, that's not the selection that I wanted. Here is the one. Yeah. Yeah, when we actually make all colors and we put them on canvas, all colors together, and however weird they looked at the beginning, I think you can start slightly guessing that this will actually somehow feels like a color of the skin. It is somehow warm, even if it's like completely gray-green. I think the illusion will be even stronger if I will just change the background to the same temperature of the greenish colors. Yeah, there's a lot of windows here. I will hide it up to have the better overview. Maybe this is too blue. But especially if I will start mixing like those for the skin, I will give her a little bit of the warmer tones on the cheeks. Oops, it's not that layer. Here's the correct layer. Right, it's, look where am I on the color wheel. I'm very desaturated and it's not even a full red color, but it's really, it looks so warm when I place it on the skin. So that's really something that when you have just one family of the colors on the canvas and you will not place anything more drastic looking, right? Because if I would just take this and place something really red here, this red is obviously the reddest color on the picture. But if I will not have it, this is the warmest red on the picture. So it gives you different anchor point as a viewer. Maybe that's I'm overcomplicating it, most likely, the explanation of it. But yeah, colors are quite complicated and it takes a lot of observation and just looking at the nature, how the lights works in the nature itself. Yeah, because we have quite a lot of time limitation on this one. I earlier spent more time experimenting with it and I got this gray version of my girl to this point. So you can see how I can take just any type of color reference and I can apply it to whichever drawing I have. It's always thinking about the color of the light, the influence of the environment on the shadow, and on any secondary color sources that can influence the surface itself. Yeah, it's, again, it's on the beginning. I would have to spend much more time to continue with it, but yeah, starting from this, starting like having a comparison of this and this. It's the same drawing, but the colors make all the difference, and it's not only the different environment, but it's also a completely different emotions that are coming with the colors. So it's additional thing on top of all of this complicity of physics, of the lights, etc., that the colors have a very effective impact on the emotions that are connected with the picture. So yeah, use it wisely. It's already 8:50, so let me know, Fahim, is that something that I can close up?
Yes, we will be asking some questions and Joanna will start that right away. So thank you so much.
Yes, so we have a lot of questions. Thank you for your detailed explanation too. So we have a lot of questions, so let's get right through those.
Yes, I hope it was somehow helpful. It's a really big topic and it's really hard to cover it in 45 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Very basic first questions. Can you tell us more about your computer setup? You mentioned you have a Cintiq. What's your computer like?
My computer is pretty modern PC with a good processor and a good graphic card. I have a secondary screen that I will always keep my references on and my navigation window, because I want to have a navigation window. I hope you guys know what that is. Let me just drag it from the other screen to my main screen. So this is the navigation window. It's the second window from of your canvas, just showing you the whole picture all the time, and that's really useful if you're working on something. Zoom in and you are losing track of how the whole picture is affected, but where you are doing it, that small corner of your work. It's always good to check it on the whole picture, what is going on, what's happening. Yeah, and my Cintiq is 24 HD. It's an older version, but I had a whole family of Wacoms. I started with Intuos 3, so I went through at least 6 or 7 different ones, always upgrading to something better and something better, and finally the big Cintiq is like I think a goal for most of the artists to get to.
Yeah. Okay. You have been selecting colors for specific areas when you were drawing. How did you select the different colors of the different body parts?
Just intuitively, I think at some point, like I really wanted to choose something basic. So when I think about the skin, it's orange, quite bright, the saturated orange color, and that's pretty much it. And but you could make it work with whatever, right? Like this example that I started working on the green version, like you can pick whichever color of the skin and make it work and look like a skin. So it's all about color of the light and the shadows.
And when you select, for example, the skin and let's say the hands and the shoulders, they're not connected in your image. What shortcut do you use for the wand tool, or do you use another shortcut for this?
When you hold down Control, because I have it separated like that, so the very beginning, whoops, okay, I changed something, but at the very beginning is just this version. So after I did sketch, I took a pen, just a simple G pen, and I contour all the picture around it, fill it up, then create a new layer, put it as a clip mask, and did the same for this one, and this for every single object that I want to have of different colors. And then when I want to create a selection mask, when I hold down Control and click on the miniature of the layer, it will create a selection from the whole layer. And if I want to cut out something, I will hold Control and Alt to cut out the selection of the blouse or the hair or yeah, whichever part.
Okay, thank you. Do you usually use neutral color as your background?
Yeah, I will have usually something middle gray, because if I would have a white background, I will push all colors very bright, and then later if I will change the background to have like some tones, I need to adjust the whole picture. Or if I would have it black, then I would render the whole character very dark, and then applying brighter background will not make the character fit to it any longer. So I think it's easier to manipulate the colors starting from the middle ground instead of pushing it from the very bright to dark or the other way around.
Okay. Which do you think is the best way to remove line art and make the picture more realistic?
My personal method is just lowering opacity of the line art and adding shadow where it's necessary to make objects readable until I can just turn off the line art completely and it looks good. So for example, on this one, I think it's already on the stage where I could turn off the line art or put it like super semi-transparent and really work those shapes to completion, so it doesn't require line art any longer. But yeah, it's slowly. I will build it up very slowly.
Okay, so there are some questions about you as an artist. What would you say are your biggest hurdles to overcome as an artist?
Really finding the motivation to sit every day and practice, because this is so important. And I see so many artists just getting into a point where they are burnout, and I'm really sad seeing them drop out and just stopping continuing doing art. And when you decide to stop, you stop it once in your life, and you never return to it back. So it's hard to find your motivation, but it's also important to understand that it hurts. It's a pain that you need to get used to, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. It's amazing to be working as an artist and to have your work being your hobby. It's the best.
Since you're working in the game industry, how do you think you need a basic education or degree to enter the industry, or what do you think is important to get started?
Right now, the situation is so drastically different. When I was beginning, the schools for game development are so good right now, and they create those enclaves of people that are same-minded, and they exchange ideas. And I, from time to time, guest teach into universities that have a game development as a path of education, and I really envy those students. Like, I would love to study it right now because it's so cool. Is it important? It depends on the exactly position. I think for 2D artists, it's not that important. I think in portfolio is the strongest, your strongest ally in getting you the job. But in something like 3D already, or animation, or anything that is farther away, like game design itself, coding, then the diploma becomes to be important.
Okay, so what do you think digital painters should practice most?
What's the digital painter should practice most? I think classical art. Like, this is a big topic that is kind of forgot in all this recent modern art world, because it's especially in my career as a concept artist, I need to know how to create word realistic, and knowing classical art, it's all about that. It's the illusion of realism that you need to acquire. You also need to be kind of a MacGyver of everything, because you get limited resources and you need to come out with amazing ideas. So yeah, learning just about world, it's a second important thing.
Okay. During the webinar, you were using this color wheel, not the one from the software, but the one with the saturation in the center.
Yeah.
Where can people get that? Do you have a source for that?
I think if you just Google color wheel, it's up there in Google Images.
Okay, and then let's have one last question. What are your tips for beginner artists who are picking up digital art and to understand better color?
Just getting used to working with tablet, working with software. This always very help if you understand how the brushes works and why do they act the way they do, but also just copying. By copying other people's art, take whichever illustration of your favorite artist you love the most and just copy it. It's such a great exercise for any beginner, and I personally did it a lot, and it really helps out.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's all the questions we get to today.
Thank you very much, and thanks everyone who joined. I am honored to represent for you, and I hope that it was successful.
Thank you so much, Magdalena. Yes, it was a very successful webinar. We learned a lot about color theory, coloring, and shading. So thank you for the time for preparing for the webinar. And as well, I wanted to thank the audience, the attendees, for making the time today to join us for an hour. We really appreciate that. For those of you who want to know more about Clip Studio Paint, please check us out at clipstudio.net/en, as well as on graphicsly.com. For more information about Magdalena, please visit her ArtStation profile. The link is available there. And once again, thank you so much, Magdalena. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can do this again in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.